Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 15.4 Beta 1 has been out for a few days. I've been using it on my main device, my iPhone 13 Pro Max, as well as my iPad Pro, and I have it on the other devices here. I wanted to talk about some new features that I didn't mention in the initial What's New video, as well as the overall stability, what battery life is like, and any remaining bugs that are happening, as well as what you had to say based off the YouTube community poll. So we'll take a look at all those other things, but first I wanted to talk about new features. And the first new feature, which I mentioned in the What's New video, but wanted to clarify something, is Face ID while wearing a mask or glasses, but not having to use your Apple Watch. If you go under Face ID and passcode, put in our password, you'll see we have the option to use Face ID with a mask and add some glasses. This is a really nice feature now that we don't have to use an Apple Watch. It's more accurate. However, it's not available on anything older than an iPhone 12. So on an iPhone 11, like I have here, if I go to the same place, put in my passcode, you'll see the option's not here. So maybe this has to do with the neural engine, but I wanted to clarify this because a lot of people have been asking. It's only iPhone 12 and newer currently. That doesn't mean they can't update it in the future with future betas, but right now it's only on the 12 and newer. Maybe it has to do with the neural engine on the processor or something else, but many people have been asking that. Now, as far as the first new feature I wanted to share with you, one of them is in the App Store. If we go to the App Store and we tap our name in the upper right or our icon for our ID, you'll see there's a new option for notifications. This was not there in the previous version. If we tap on this notifications option, you'll see it says new features and updates, so we can get notifications about that, or recommendations and offers. So we have those options now built in. We can turn them on or off. And if you want to be updated, of course, now we have that option. So it's a nice little option for notifications. There's also an update for notifications within Shortcuts. So if we go into our Shortcuts app, and what you need to do is go into your automations. If you have a personal automation that you've already created, such as when CarPlay connects or something like that, you'll see it says ask before running and notify when run. If we turn this on, you'll see the other one disappears where it would ask before running. What you need to do is turn off ask before running. It will prompt you and say don't ask before running. We'll tap on Don't Ask, and you'll see the other option appears for Notify When Run. So if you want to get rid of those notifications when it's running in automation, you can now do that. Within Notes, there's a new option. So if we tap on the little camera icon here, you'll see it says Scan Text. In previous versions, we didn't have that option. We would have to sort of tap and hold to scan the text. Now it's just a new option built in. So choose photo or video, take photo or video, scan documents, and now scan text. It's a nice little option they've added. Now, if you have an iPhone 13 Pro or Pro Max with 120 Hz ProMotion, Apple has now allowed third-party apps to take full advantage of that. Where they had to go into their code and modify that, you should see more third-party apps supporting this, whether that be Overcast or something else. Scrolling seems smooth, and they may need to enable a trigger within their code itself to enable this, but either way, they've given them more options, so it should be smoother and in much more apps from what we've seen so far. So hopefully we'll see that very soon in the future. Within Settings is a new mail option if you subscribe to iCloud Plus. So if we go to Settings, tap on your name at the top and then iCloud. Under iCloud, you'll see iCloud Mail. Tap on iCloud Mail and you'll see it says custom email domain. You can learn more and you can add your own domain. Again, you'll need iCloud Plus, and there was a splash screen the first time I went into this. I wanted to share that with you. So here's the custom email domain splash screen. It says use iCloud Mail to send and receive email with up to 5 custom domains that you already own. Members of your family sharing group can also use your domains. You have only for you and your family. Now, it's a little bit buggy, and you can go into it and try and set it up, but oftentimes it doesn't even open. So you should see this prompt once you open that up and try it, but it is a little bit buggy in the first beta, but it's a new option there. Within Settings, there's a new option as well. So in Settings, if we go to General, then we go to Background App Refresh, scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see there's now an option for Web. Web is something that isn't in previous versions, such as 15.3. You'll see here, if I scroll to the bottom, there's no web on 15.3 on the left, and there's no icon for web either. So this is something that's new. We're not sure what it is, but they've added it in the beta. So something a little bit new, and thanks to Jack for sending that in. Now, if you're adding a password on a website in Safari, and maybe you don't have an email address, you've just entered the password, it will now prompt you with a new prompt and ask you to enter that and see if you want to save it in your keychain. So you can see here, this is what it looks like. It says, would you like to save this password in your iCloud keychain to use across apps and websites on all your devices? Enter the username for this account to finish saving your password and allow Safari to autofill. Thanks to Ryan for sending this in, and as you can see, this is what it looks like. So you can save it or hit not now. So you'll only get that if you're setting up a new password or maybe logging in and you have a password only set up for that website. Now additionally, 9to5Mac found that within the code, there's a new trade-in tool for scanning cosmetic details with your iPhone camera. So this is something that could be used if you're trading in your iPhone, and you'll see here it says the tool will use the camera to detect cosmetic details of another device, which probably include things like scratches, dents, or broken glass. Once the scan is complete, the tool will send the cosmetic details to Apple. Apple considers all these details to determine how much it will pay for a customer's old device. So this is a tool we could see in the future when you go to trade in your phone. It may use your camera to scan that, whether you'll need any iPhone or maybe a 13 Pro Max specifically, we don't know, but it looks like that tool should be available in the near future when 15.4 launches. And thanks to everyone else that sent in all of the different things that are new in this update, as well as the things that I didn't put here that I actually checked across everything. I always appreciate people letting me know if they think they've found something new. Now, as far as the overall stability in this update, well, it's pretty good for the most part. My experience has been stable over the past day or so, but the first day I used it, I had the phone completely crash. It restarted, and I have a low battery on a couple devices here. It restarted and then completely crashed, rebooted, resprung or respringed, and then came back to normal. It hasn't done that since, but others have mentioned they've seen the same thing. So there's definitely some stability issues going on, and of course you want to report that in the feedback app. However, I have most issues when I use photos. So I airdropped a photo to this device. When I'm usually looking at wallpapers and things like that, I'll do that. Dropped it to the device, and it crashed the phone. That's where it initially crashed. Also, adding a photos in messages or adding a photo in messages typically gives me a problem unless I use the share sheet within Photos. Also, there's delays in saving photos. Sometimes when saving from other apps, they just don't show up in the photo app. So something's changing there. So maybe we'll see some updates to photos in the future since there's some odd bugs with that. Those are the bugs I've experienced, and many of you say it's fairly stable other than what I've already mentioned. A few people were mentioning issues, or one person in particular was mentioning an issue with Fitness Plus. So if you're using Apple Fitness Plus, they were saying that it was a little bit slow or unresponsive. So again, consider these things when you're wanting to try out a beta. There's definitely some bugs in this first beta. Everything from universal control on the iPad being a little bit buggy seems to work pretty good, but there's definitely some issues here and there. Also, that storage bug seems to be more prominent in this update than any other I've used. When I go into storage, wait for it to load, it seems to take a very long time or just not load at all on my 13 Pro Max. Even on 15.3 it seemed to be fixed, and it's not in this one. So you'll see it just loaded here, but when I looked at it the other day it wouldn't load. System data still hasn't loaded, and we still don't have the icons on the side. So whatever's going on there, Apple's making a change we're not aware of yet, but I would expect that to be resolved hopefully soon, and I'll be sure to report that in feedback. And if you're using the beta, I would recommend you do too if you have that issue. Other than those bugs, it seems to be pretty good. Now, the experience on my iPad has been fairly steady as well. So on the iPad, it's been pretty good. I haven't had any issues, but battery life is where there's always a concern. So on my iPad, if we go into battery, I haven't had my iPad crash or anything at all. You'll see it was last charged to 100% 39 minutes ago, and I'm still at 100% because of that. So if we go back a day, I used it for 2 hours and 26 minutes, and it had 21 hours and 33 minutes of screen off time. I never use this with the screen off. I'm not streaming music with it or anything, so there's some odd bugs here and there that keep draining battery for no reason. And in that time, with that 2.5 hours, I used about 45% of the battery or so. So this could definitely get better. Again, I'm trying to figure out what's causing this background drain. You'll see Find My is causing some of it. photos might be, files and things like that, but there's some odd issues going on with battery on the iPad. And there has been for a while, but I think this time around it's a little bit worse, at least for me. As far as the iPhone is concerned, well, let's take a look at my battery here. So we'll go back, go to the battery. There it is. Look at battery health, and as I mentioned in my 15.3 video for the follow-up, I wanted to show you battery on an older device, as many people have been asking for that. So the iPhone X has 88% battery health. It's a few years old at this point. It was charged every single night, but it's still performing fine. I wouldn't really change the battery unless it tells you to, or you get really low, maybe down to 70% or so. But it seems to be okay on this update. Now, as far as my battery life when I'm actually using it, well, over the past couple days, let's take a look at Friday here. Friday was pretty poor. So you'll see 1 hour and 49 minutes of screen on time, 7 hours and 14 minutes of screen off time, and I used almost 75% of my battery. So that's not very good at all. Then, well, yesterday, 2 hours and 8 minutes of screen on time, 8 hours and 5 minutes of screen off time, and I used 50%. So battery life on this beta is pretty poor for me, and others are saying the same thing. I had a user comment that said the exact same thing. His name's Renee, messaged me and said this battery life is not so great, and others are saying the same. It's a first beta. They've added a bunch of features. Typically, battery will take a hit a little bit there. Now, I wanted to share with you someone else's battery life as well, just so it's not just my experience, but this is thanks to Abhishek for sending this in on an 11 Pro Max on 15.4 Beta 1. You'll see he had 5 hours and 23 minutes of screen on time and 16 minutes of screen off time and used about 50% of the battery. So he's actually having much better battery life, probably 10 hours, 11 hours of screen on time, which is correct for that phone. So that's pretty good. And then yesterday, 3 hours and 54 minutes, and then 23 minutes of screen off time. And again, 50% battery. So it's a little more consistent for him than it is for me. And in general, it's doing pretty well. As far as overall connectivity, it's actually been really good for me. So my experience when coming from 15.3 to 15.4 Beta 1, they did update the modem, and I've had no issues. It seems to connect much faster for me now with this beta. So they changed something there that definitely improved it, at least in my situation on this phone. So I'd love to hear if you're having the same experience as well. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and everything else has been fairly solid, and most of you mentioned the same thing. So it seems to be a pretty decent update, but there are a few issues. I typically find them to be around photos. Now, as far as when to expect iOS 15.4 Beta 2 and then the final release, I don't really think we're going to have Beta 2 this coming week in the beginning of February. I would think it's going to be in the second week. So I'm not sure of that yet. Of course, Apple can change that up, but typically just based off of year over year and previous betas, I would expect the first 2 or 3 betas to be bi-weekly, and then we move to weekly releases. If they do release it this coming week, well, then we can expect it sooner than I thought, but I would expect this beta to be out by the end of February or sometime in mid to late March, depending on how they release the betas. So within the next couple of months, probably leading up to a spring event, usually where they'll release this around that time frame, sometime in late March. So hopefully we'll see that along with a bunch of new products such as iMac and more. Now let's take a look at the YouTube community poll and take a look at some of the comments. Now at the time of this video, let me refresh it here, there's 8.9K votes, or 8,900 votes and 142 comments. Prior to making this video, I read all the comments to give you an idea of what it's like, the bugs and more. And you'll see 18% are on 15.4 Beta 1, 71% are on Beta 3, or 15.3 rather, and you can see that from the 15.3 poll, many people watching this channel and voting on this are still on the public version. 2% are still on iOS 14.8.1 or older, 1% are on 13.7 or older, and 7% are using Android. So thanks again to everyone who commented and voted. Let's take a look at 5 or 10 comments or so. Roberto said, 15.4 Beta 1 here, no major issues here, only a minor glitch with the keyboard, seems to reload every 5 or 10 seconds, and with the roads, exit, and CarPlay, characters are way too big. Battery is not a problem so far. Braden said, everything has been fine for me with the exception of 2 things, battery life and Fitness Plus is slow and sometimes unresponsive on my Apple TV 4K. tvOS 15.4 Beta 1. Rahul Mundra said, very buggy for me on my iPhone XS Max. The entire front and back camera module along with Face ID is now broken and does not work. Have put the same in Feedback app. Have tried to Use a fresh install of 15.4, but in vain have to downgrade to 15.3 public release. Also bugs in the email app. iOS 15.4 beta on iPhone 10, good performance, but no major changes from 15.3. Disappointed from Apple for now giving new Face ID features for old phones. Connectivity might be the issue, battery is good. JD says 13 Pro 15.4 beta 1 working great, notifications do randomly glitch and turn squared instead of round. Just Dave said I had iOS 15.4 on my 13 Pro Max since release without any issues. So nice not having to go through the screen time workaround every day to turn off the shortcuts notifications. Mel Harris said using 15.4 beta 1 on my 12 mini and iPad Pro 12.9. It has been great. Battery life is excellent and very smooth, no crashes. All apps work properly and opening fast. Universal control is fantastic. Jeremy DeBose said 15.4, 13 Pro Max, and 2018 iPad Pro. Solid so far. No freezes, crashes, resprings, etc. Strong battery performance still. So far, so good. Philip Watts says I'm running 15.4 beta on 12 Pro Max and it's been running good and the battery life has been excellent. Faraz said I'm using iOS 15.4 beta 1 on an iPhone 13 Pro Max, still have the same buttery and flowness experience, though feeling a quick battery drain. However, the usage is the same as earlier. Abhishek Lamba said iOS 15.4 beta 1 on an iPhone 11 Pro Max. It's been fine till now, waiting for the Face ID mask feature, which is tremendously useful these days. Hope Apple brings it in the next beta, but RAM management is good. The keyboard clicks while entering password is weird. It sounds like double clicks. Otherwise, it is quite smooth and stable to date. Colin1C Apple Tech says, I'm using an iPhone XS with iOS 15.4 beta 1 ever since release, and it's doing just fine, and the battery life is at 4 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time and 40 minutes of screen off time with 78% of maximum capacity. Seems to be doing just fine after school days. And thank you, Zollotech, for the hard work you've been doing on YouTube. And thank you for watching. Christian Sivan says, I'm on iOS 15.4 beta 1 and I don't have any issues on my 13 Pro Max. This is my main device and so far it's been running great. My battery is the same I had on 15.3. And so that's everything with iOS 15.4 beta 1. Be sure to check back pretty soon. Hopefully we'll have beta 2. And if you found any additional features, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below, as maybe there's some other things we've missed here. So it looks like there's going to be a lot of little changes coming in the future. And then, of course, iOS 16 with WWDC in June. So we should see iOS 16 hopefully with a minor or major redesign and some additional features and more. If there's anything else you'd like to see in these follow-up videos, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And of course, if you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.